Okay.
That's it now.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Renfrewshire Valuation Joint Board. This is the second meeting of the Joint Board that has been held remotely, and I must confirm that this is being recorded. This is an important step for the Joint Board. As you know, we are not able to hold meetings in public and at our usual location due to the government guidance on the public health measures to tackle COVID-19 emergency. Therefore, it's important that we take those steps available to us to make the proceedings of the Joint Board open to scrutiny, not only to the public, but to all the other elected members of our councils. And I can advise that this recording of this meeting will be available to watch on Renfrewshire Council's website following the meeting. Although most members of the Joint Board are familiar with the basic rules to be followed for the meeting held remotely, to ensure that the meeting's procedures proceedings are efficiently done, there are a couple of additional points that need to be brought to your attention. These are: it is even more important that when meetings are being recorded that it is the only person who is speaking who has their microphone on. This is because on the recording, only the person speaking will be shown on the screen rather than the screen that will be visible to us. If any noise from any other microphone is picked up, the picture on the recording may move to the source of the noise. For the same reason, it is important that there is a short pause between speakers to enable the camera to adjust to the new speaker. The content of any show conversation instant messages sent on the Teams system will be shown on the recording. Members who are accessing by phone only should also put their phones on mute when they're not addressing the meeting. Before moving on to the agenda, can I ask the clerk to do a roll call of the members so that it's clear who is present on the recording?
Thanks, convener. At today's meeting, we have yourself, Councillor Audrey Doig, we have Christine McCourt, Councillor McVeigh, Councillor Gilbert, Councillor Brooks, Councillor Nelson, Councillor Sharkey, we have Kate Crawford, Jacqueline Murgatroyd, Lindsay Henry, Councillor Kenny McLaren, Councillor Max McLaren, we have Mark Ferris from Audit Scotland, Councillor Begg and Councillor Ireland.
Thanks for that. Now we can move to the agenda. Are there any apologies?
I have apologies from Councillor Cameron, Councillor John McIntyre and Councillor Andy Steele from Renfrewshire, and I understand that Councillor Adam McGregor, Councillor Steele substitute, is about to join the meeting.
Thank you. Are there any declarations of interest? No one's indicating that there is any declaration, so we'll carry on to the first item of the agenda. The first item is the minute of the joint held on the 29th of May 2020. Are there any questions or any comments on the minutes? No. Then can we approve the minutes? Thank you. That's the minutes approved. Item 2 is the Revenue Budget Monitoring Report. Are there any questions? If there's no questions, can we note the report? Thank you. Item 3 is the Annual Audit Report on the annual accounts of 2019-20. Is there any of the staff want to comment or any of the councillors want to ask questions? Councillor Brooks.
Thanks very much. On the audit report, we have a fairly positive story. There's nothing that Audit Scotland is bringing to our attention. And if I'm reading it correctly, it says the reserves are now at 399k, which is maybe a good place to be. Our target is to have a 5% reserve, which is, I think, 150k. So we're well above that reserve. So could officers make any comment about the high level reserves and what would that mean going forward. Do we have an investment programme that we have to consider funding, or do we have to review the receipts that local councils are making to this organisation?
Hello, Chair. Is it all right if I come in here? It's Christine. Hi, thank you. It was just a comment on the level of reserves this year being unusually high because of the Barclay funding that we received last year from the government, not all of which has been spent. And you may recall in the budget estimates paper that we made some provision for holding some of that back and putting it into reserves for future spend. So that was partially due to that. And when it comes to actually how we are using the reserves, again, it would be addressed at the revenue estimates time. And there are plans to use some of that, for example, towards the end of the IER funding. You may recall we had central government funding for individual electoral registration, which was coming to an end. We have actually received some money for that this year. However, we had planned to draw down from reserves to fund some of that activity, which was still ongoing. So the kind of decisions that we're making about the use of reserves are taken around about budget time. And I would maybe refer you back to the February paper to look at how we have planned to use the reserves going forward. But that's the main reason for the higher level at the moment. And it will be used going forward for day-to-day spend.
Thank you for the comments, Christine. Does that answer some of your questions, Councillor Brooks?
Yeah, thanks very much. Obviously, it brings a conclusion to obviously the February paper, but obviously members will have obviously heard and be aware of the pressures that their local council is under funding. And obviously, as we move through these future years with such a high level of reserve, we will have to take decisions appropriately to ensure that we aren't asking for extra funding from councils if we can avoid it due to the positive reserve status. So I think members have heard the answer and it is satisfactory.
Thank you, Councillor Brooks. I know that we're in strange times, but I know that every council in the whole of Britain is under financial pressure. But I think maybe come December we'll have a better idea where we're at as to how we need to go forward, and if any money has to be spent to change offices or put screens in or whatever, we might have a better idea what can and cannot be done as far as that is. But I'm very, very conscious that all the councils are in the same situation. Thanks, Councillor Brooks. Okay, can we note and approve the audited accounts?
Councillor Doig, I think Councillor Ireland has got her hand up to come in.
Oh, sorry. Councillor Ireland.
Thank you, Chair. It was just, I might be coming in a wee bit early, but I know that this is on the risk register, but page 57, it's the last paragraph there, and it's the material change of circumstances appeals lodged and the number that that came in. I note that these have to be dealt with by March 2021, but it was noted that it's a big demand on staff. And I'm just wondering if there's any kind of update on that, how those will be dealt with, or a date when that will be reported back to us, because I note that it says it will be closely monitored. So will that be reported back to us at further meetings? Thank you.
Hello, hi. Is it okay if I answer that, Councillor? Yeah, okay. In fact, things have moved on since that report was written, because the Scottish Government has now taken a decision that both the disposal date for the 2017 revaluation appeals and these COVID material change of circumstance appeals have been extended. So instead of the 2017 appeals being disposed of by this December and the COVID ones the following March, they're actually both extended to December of 21. Because the government has taken the view, having listened to all stakeholders, that to try and deal with the COVID material change of circumstance appeals, we don't really have evidence yet of what businesses have been affected. I mean, we know a lot of people have been badly affected, but we don't have the detail of individual cases of businesses, and we have to collect all the information in. Rental drops, businesses closing, it's obviously another bad sign, but it's this kind of evidence that we have to pull in and then have those discussions. But the government realised that it would be unfair on both the ratepayer and the assessors to try and do that when nobody's really got the full picture, and COVID is emerging as we go. So the government has now extended those deadlines, but that's just recently, and I think it's the 15th of September was the date it was due to be finalised. It doesn't come in until the end of the month. It doesn't come in until the 29th, I think, something like that, towards the end of the month. So we can't report on it yet until it becomes law, but that is the intention. I hope that helps.
Oh no, that's great. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Kate. So can we note and approve the annual accounts of 2019-20?
Well done.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, can we go on to item 4, the COVID-19 Guide for Audit and Risk Committees? Are any questions on the report? No questions.
No.
Can we note the report?
No.
Okay, thank you. Item 5, the Barclay update and service review. Do you want to say a couple of words on this, Kate? Is it to bring people up to speed?
Yes, please. Thank you. Thank you, convener. Yeah, just a couple of things. Unfortunately, as we all know, due to the pandemic, we haven't been able to do the recruitment and restructure as yet. We are hoping to move things along in the coming few weeks. We will be actually advertising for some qualified chartered surveyors in the next few weeks because of the loss of staff that we have already had in the organisation. So that will happen, and word on the street is that because of furlough schemes ending and various firms not having the same help out from the government, there may actually be some qualified surveyors looking for work, which would be a boon to us if we could pick some lucky people up to come and work with the joint board. So that's what we're hoping to do, to get some adverts out quite quickly, and fingers crossed we get something there. And once we get that moving, hopefully that will kickstart all the other plans that we want to do. Other than that, but I think Christine had already alluded to the fact that we are underspent on the Barclay funding, because this was for staffing and some various procurement of systems and things. So while things have slowed down, they've not come to a complete halt, but you will see councillor groups that we will be actually spending some of those reserves quite soon. So we won't be quite as healthy in the coming months. Any questions?
Thank you for that, Kate. Is there any questions on the Barclay update?
No.
Okay, thank you. Can we note the report? Thank you. Item 6, the COVID-19 risk register. Before we start this report, I would like to, at this stage, thank all the staff who work for the board, who have been beavering away at home in the main, and have been coming in for a few meetings to the office, and the risk register has been looking at how we could bring some staff back once we have the approval to do that. But I know Kate can give you an update on this, but there has been quite a bit of work getting done on it. To you, Kate.
Thank you, convener. Yes, just to say that my trusty assistants, both Jackie and Lindsay, have been working tirelessly with Renfrewshire Council's health and safety, and I need to say the council's been superb in supporting us through this. So we have gone through our whole audit of the building, the part that we occupy. We've installed all the hand sanitisers, etc., etc. We've got signs everywhere. And we had a visit last Tuesday of this week, whereby the officials came over to check that everything was as it should be. So we are expecting, hopefully, it goes to the CMT and Renfrewshire Council next week, and we're hoping to get it signed off, and we will have, what we're aiming for is 12 people in the office, which is about 25%, to try and do some of the work that we can't do remotely. There are some things, such as some work for the canvas that we're carrying out just now on the electoral side. Obviously people are still sending in paper forms, etc., so these need scanned and put into the system. And there's some non-domestic work as well for the appeals that we're talking about that can't be done remotely. So we've got a small team of 12 approved, and it's only going to be 12. It won't be any more than that. It might rotate. If other people have to come in, then someone will have to go home, but it won't be any more than 12. And it's to give us just that wee bit more flexibility in getting the service as up to 100% as we possibly can, but in a safe environment for everybody. Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you, Kate, and thanks for that update. Can we note that report, Councillor Brooks?
Thanks very much, Convener. Yeah, I was just wanting to tease out slightly, understand 12 people coming back in, and if it's signed off, that's fantastic. It's a great step forward. But does Kate have a mindset about those who are, and I'll use the phrase, left at home? Are we supporting them in the appropriate ways to ensure that not only are they fulfilling the duties, which I'm sure they are, but obviously from a psychological and a personal point of view, mental health point of view, they're actually in a good place? And secondly, is our intention to bring as many people back as possible when Scottish Government guidelines allow it to happen? Or are we starting to think that some of our staff could actually fulfil their function from a home working set? Or is it simply too early to tell, Kate?
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, so first of all, we issued 2 surveys to staff over the last few months, one about checking their health and well-being, and also a second one more recently checking about how they feel about coming back to the office. Do they want to come back to the office? Do they want to do a blended approach? All this kind of thing. So we're looking at that. Obviously, if people wanted to fully home work, that would be a change to their terms and conditions, because that's not in the contract just now. But just now, I think it's probably a wee bit early to know exactly what the end position is going to be, because who knows when it is going to end. But at the minute, certainly on the surveys that we got back from the staff, everybody was happy to come back in some form, but not necessarily full time, every day, every week sort of thing. So we've tried to accommodate that where we can, and the 12 people that are coming back are those that have been handpicked. First of all, they're willing to come back, and second of all, they're the people that are best placed to do the jobs that need to be done in the office. But we'll need to wait now for government guidance to know if that can be extended or not. And certainly going forward, as you say, Councillor, I mean, the new norm might be that everybody does some kind of blended thing. We don't all suddenly rush back to the office even when we are allowed to. So it's something that will be kept under review, I think, for the period coming forward, and we'll take close note of how it works. I need to say we are managing to deliver. The only thing we're not doing hugely just now is external survey work for the surveyors. That's very limited to drive-bys or outside external inspections. We are hoping to start getting into internal inspections, but only where we absolutely have to do it and we can't get plans or any other means of inspecting a building, and the ratepayer needs an answer to whatever the query is. But so that will be minimised, and we'll do as much from a desktop exercise as we can. But other than that, we're really up there. So we're very lucky that we've managed to deliver as we have. That's through the willingness of the staff, I need to say. And the line managers have been superb at coordinating the staff, working out who can do what. Our 2 assistant assessors have been nothing short of brilliant, getting them up and running. So really, it's been a big effort by everybody, but they've all been very, very willing to do it, and we wouldn't have got here without them. We will keep it under review.
So sorry, my husband's phone, not mine. Councillor Brooks, is the answer to that okay for you? Okay. Councillor Sharkey, I noticed you had your hand up. Do you want to come in?
Well, broadly, it was the same question as the first part of Councillor Brooks's there. But still, I would like reassurance that where it was appropriate, for the mental health of the staff, that counselling, was available, and there'd be no undue or unreasonable restrictions put on them, for getting that sort of support. I think that's the support that Councillor Brooks was talking about, and if it's in place in the way that you're talking about, I'd certainly be much more comfortable. I think one of the things we have to realise, although much of this is done by talking about the physical barriers and the practical problems that COVID brings people, I think we have to think seriously about what I've heard one councillor with the other spelling talk about is the tsunami, right, of mental health problems that are going to arise, right, once people get through this. I don't accept there's ever going to be a new normal. What's going to happen is people will adapt to the new circumstances, and it's the people who don't adapt so quickly that we need to be thinking about. And as long as I see a nice thumbs up there, so I'm comfortable that that's being dealt with.
Okay.
Sorry, convener, could I come back there? Sorry. Yeah, actually, good point, well made, Councillor Sharkey. That's actually one of the questions that we'd asked the staff about their mental health, and as I think Councillor Brooks had alluded as well, about the overall well-being of people working from home. On that survey, we have responded to it. Some of the people that are coming in are because they've asked through mental health reasons. They would actually prefer to be in the office. They would find it better for them. So we've accommodated that, and that's why we've chosen some of them to come in. They just feel for themselves it's better to get away from whatever, they might be working in a shared household or a shared flat, whatever. For whatever reason, if they've asked to do it, we have accommodated it. So, and we're very, very conscious that it's, as you say, this could well be a tsunami later on. So whatever we can do, and we will keep the staff surveys going, just to make sure that everybody feels happy and willing to tell their line managers, or they can come to anybody. But yeah, no, it's an ongoing thing. It's not a one-off exercise. This is going to be something that we will do constantly, because it's a different world for all of us, and we need to be really aware of that. So yeah, no, take your point, and thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Kate, for that update. And can we note the report, councillors? Okay. On to item 7, the corporate risk register. Is there any questions about this report? No. Can we note the report, please? Thank you. The electoral update for Canvass 2020. Obviously that has been curtailed, but I believe, Kate, that some of the plans are back in place for the canvass to continue.
Yeah, thank you, convener. Yes, the new style canvass has started, despite everything else that happened to us. And I was just trying to give you some figures there about the fact that the drop in postage and things, because normally what we did in our canvass was the 167,000 households in the joint board area got a letter. And now what we're able to do with the new style canvass, as it said in the report, is split that up into different routes so that it's not a blanket approach for everybody, and it's a bit more tailored. And that's resulted in, we're only sending out 72% of what we've been sending out in postage over the last 5 years. So that will continue to drop as canvasses go forward. That's the aim. And also our door-to-door canvas, if that should go ahead, and that's a big if at the minute, but if we do go ahead with the door-to-door canvas, there's a big drop there, down to 57%. The most interesting thing we had was trying our e-communications this time, because we were allowed in law to use that as a methodology to contact people. we had 54,000 of them sent out. We only got 17,000 roughly back. I think we need to do a bit more comms work to get it out to people to know that it's not a phishing exercise and it's not a spam email. It is, although it's coming from a, we've got a .gov.uk website, and people were still a bit, wary of it. Although we were only sending it to people who had chosen that as their method of contact. So it wasn't, it wasn't just out to the general public. It was to people who had said yes, they were willing to be contacted by email. But as I say, it's the first year, so obviously you're going to get people a bit nervous. And that's been across the country, because this is a change to Canvas across the UK. It's not just Scotland-wide. And speaking to colleagues down south, it's been the same there. So it's a learning curve for the public as well. But the e-com certainly is a huge saving on cost, because it's just sending an email, and it's so much easier. But yes, overall, we're quite pleased with how it's gone so far. Our next big step is really to know whether we will get permission to, or be able to, under government guidelines, doing the door knock. We do have canvassers willing to do it. It's just a question of whether we can, or whether we'll be in a local lockdown, or whatever the circumstances. That's a day-to-day thing. But I'm preparing for it because I have to by law. But the decision on it will be made near the time, which will be probably into mid to late October. Thank you. Happy to take any questions.
Okay. Thank you, Kate. Is there any questions on the electoral update? No, I think Kate covered it, most of it. That was really good. Item 9 is, can we note that report? Sorry. Item 9, the performance report. Is there any questions on the performance report? Very good again, very high figures for it. So if there's no questions, can we note the report and thank the staff again? Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Could I ask Jackie just to say a couple of words, because we're kind of wanting to give you the heads up on something about performance?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks everyone, and thanks convener. As you can see in the report, well, the figures obviously for the first quarter or up to June this year are quite healthy looking, and we're meeting the targets. Obviously, in my conclusion, I would like to just bring to the attention that that might change going forward, simply because obviously there has been no surveys being carried out at the present time due to the COVID, and it may well be that once these do start concluding within the office, that there is a backlog of alterations that require to be picked up, obviously back to April, May, June, and that will affect our stats going forward and our KPIs going forward.
I think that's very understandable, and I think all the councillors will appreciate that fact, but there are a lot of things that are not being done because of COVID and will be well behind, and I think we totally understand what you're basically saying and get to there. Is there any other questions? Can we note the report? Okay. Item 10, the non-domestic appeals. I think probably the situation is going to be the same for them, but you can update me, Kate, if there's anything different from the report.
No, Jackie, do you want to say it?
Okay, thanks, convener. Obviously in this report I have attached, as was mentioned earlier on, obviously we've received over 3,000 MCC appeals in relation to the COVID, and I have attached for your information Appendix 2 an outline showing just exactly the number of appeals that we have received in the same format, obviously in the category 1 to 20, so you can see within each consistency how many appeals we've received. It's already been touched on today. The deadline for dealing with these has now been pushed back to December of next year. So there probably will not be, I intend to bring this forward obviously to let you see how we do progress with them, but it will obviously, nothing will change in the short term to do with dealing with these, but I'll keep you updated how they're progressing.
Thanks for that. It's what I suspected, but thank you for all your work on this, and obviously the anticipation of the COVID-19 appeals will be not something you'll be looking forward to either, but we will take it on board. Can we note this report, councillors? Thank you. Item 11, the progress update on the review of the records management plan. Kate, is there any update that you want to give apart from the report?
No, convener, we're fine. Just to know.
Any questions, councillors? No.
If you approve it, we'll put it on our website now. That's all.
Okay. Can we approve the management record plan? Thank you. Item 12, the information handling policy, basically is a new update on the policy. Can we approve the policy? Any questions? No. Policy is approved, Kate. That's another one on the list. And item 13, the trade unions facility time reporting is just an update on the last year's report. There's not really been any issues with it, but it's just to give you a heads up on the yearly report. Are there any questions? No? Can we note the report? Okay. And expediently on to the last item. The date of our next meeting is at 2 o'clock on the 20th of November 2020. And unless there is any major change, it will be like this in November as well. But thank you for everybody's time and patience in going through. And I think it's been a very good and expedient meeting. Thank you for coming along. Thank you. Bye.